Hi, and thank you so much for popping by. My name is Dr. Rita Pobaluzwi, and you're most welcome to this conversation today. In this particular clip, I am referring and reflecting on Botswana's death penalty. In particular, I'm looking at the potential tension that is likely to arise because Botswana's current president, the history-making president, Boko, has a very strong human rights background. He has very strong human rights credentials. He has always taken on the human rights of the Basarwa. He's advocated against the death penalty in his professional life. And I think this puts him in a very interesting position when he talks about the death penalty in the Botswana context. Despite him being a human rights activist by profession and background, Botswana as a nation have always insisted on the death penalty. They are pro the death penalty. And specifically, a survey that was conducted most recently indicates that almost 82% of Botswana believe in the death penalty. And the good news is that he's the right man for the job when it comes to changing mindsets on aspects such as the death penalty, changing mindset on aspects such as the LGBTQ, changing mindsets on aspects such as male violence, the gender-based violence, because he has been very strong and vocal human rights advocate, even in the case of the Basarwa community, of the marginalized populations. So I think that's the good news about President Boko's position at the moment. He has the capacity and the resources to ensure that mindsets can be changed. When I speak of the death penalty, one of the issues that comes to my mind is the high rates, extremely disturbing rates of gender-based violence in Botswana. And what the survey is showing is that 86% of women in Botswana believe in the death penalty, in comparison to 77% of men who believe in the death penalty. Now, just on face value, I imagine that the women support the death penalty because they are crying out for help in context to gender-based violence. They find that there are very different reasons why both women and men in Botswana believe in the death penalty, right? So that's one aspect. One of the elements that is key to the topic on death penalty is education and awareness, right? I think this applied even to the context of the use of medical marijuana, because Botswana is one of the countries in the Southern African region that is left behind when it comes to the use of medical marijuana. And in this case, Botswana is also one of the countries that is left behind when it comes to abolishing the death penalty. So these are the two trends where Botswana is kind of left behind, or Botswana has not resolved to meet this particular trend. Another issue that comes to my mind every time I think about the death penalty is Marietta Bosch. Marietta Bosch was a South African woman who was hanged in Botswana because she killed somebody. There was a three-way relationship, and somewhere Marietta Bosch ended up killing the partner, the woman who her partner was dating at the time. And this particular hanging caused a lot of uproar because, as is typical with the hangings in Botswana, what happens is that they don't tell the nation when it's going to happen. So you just get an announcement to say it has happened. We have hanged this particular prisoner, right? So that was what happened in the case of Marietta Bosch. And because she was South African, right, she was a white South African woman, it caused a lot of tensions there between Botswana and South Africa. But what data is showing is that there are 55 countries, predominantly in the developing world, that still uphold the death penalty, right? Another interesting factor is that if you look at the 10 most peaceful countries in the world, the 10 most peaceful countries in the world, do not uphold the death penalty. You will find that countries such as Denmark have long abolished the death penalty way back in 1976, right? Just to show you that there is no correlation between having the death penalty and actually getting peace in the country, right? And of course, there are so many other factors that are making Denmark a peaceful country, right? One of which is that the country has strong social safety nets, right? So they have a strong social safety net for the population. They have world-class healthcare, excellent education, and there's a lot of trust between the public and those who run the country, right? The death penalty doesn't guarantee peace in the country. The death penalty doesn't guarantee that there will be lower levels of gender-based violence as we see in Botswana. The death penalty doesn't guarantee that there will be lower levels of rape in the country as we see in Botswana. The death penalty doesn't guarantee peace in the country, right? We can see this in the context of Denmark, right? We can see this in the context of Portugal. We can see this in the context of countries such as Austria, right, that are in the top 10 in terms of most peaceful nations in the world. They have long abolished the death penalty. And think about it. Think about the reality of what has the death penalty done to curb the ills, the social ills that we see in our community, right? But yes, absolutely, there's a need for a lot of education and awareness. There's a need for more kind of engagement with the public to understand why they believe so strongly in the death penalty. I think the voices are what I need to hear from Botswana. Why do they believe in the death penalty, right? And once they can explain why they believe in the death penalty, then we can also understand where the gaps are in terms of awareness and education. So an interesting study was conducted in 2024, this is last year, right, by Dambe. Dambe is saying here that, one of the things that is necessary in Botswana is to do automatic review of death penalty cases in Botswana. This, he says, will help to at least ensure that when it comes to the cases of death penalty, the people who are actually going to be facing this form of punishment are legit cases, right? That no stone was left unturned in determining that this person needs to be hanged. Alrighty, my friend, I thank you so much for popping by. I hope you're having a lovely day where you are, but most importantly, I hope you're having a healthy day wherever you're watching me from. Bye.